Hello and welcome to HTV. I'm Heather Ramsay and today I'm going to be interviewing some really interesting people. So thank you for coming in. So you're the music teacher at my school. What's your favorite part about that?
My favorite part about teaching you and our other friends music is probably that we have a lot of fun. And people come to music, sometimes they're in kind of a grouchy mood, but then hopefully by the end of music they're having fun and people like to sing and dance, so yeah.
So why did you want to become a music teacher?
I actually didn't know I wanted to be a music teacher. So I started out teaching grade 2-3 French immersion. And then when Mrs. Cheatham retired, Miss Morfitt said, you know what, Megan, I think you would do a really good job at that. And I said, well, I'll try it for 5 years. And now I've been doing it for 6, and I really love it.
So you also teach choir, so what made you decide to do choir?
Yeah, well, choir was just kind of part of the job. So when I came into the music teacher position, then that was just part of what you did as music. But I always loved choir. I was in a choir as a student, and I love singing with other people.
So our choir's doing a musical?
Our choir is working on a musical. I don't know if we're gonna finish it. Do you think we're gonna finish it?
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know if we have quite enough time this school year, but it's been a really fun project to work on.
So what made you decide to do the musical?
Well, I wanted a bigger project to work on, and I thought that the kids would probably like doing a project. And so this musical, did you remember what it's called?
Summer Camp, a musical caper about finding a place to belong?
Good, because I didn't remember what it was called. I knew it was called Summer Camp. So this musical is about Bonnie the blogger, played by you, and then her friends, and she kind of discovers what camp is like, right, and what being part of belonging to a group is about.
You also have a mediation company, is that right?
I do have a mediation company. So my mediation company is called Pacific Rim Mediation, and I work after school and on the weekends.
So what is mediation?
Yeah, so mediation is when two people are in a conflict, or it could be more than two people are in a conflict, and it's a way of getting people to communicate with each other and try and work out what is at the heart of the conflict and what kind of ways forward. So sometimes grown-ups get into conflicts and then they end up having to go to court, and it's really expensive, and it's pretty stressful too. So if we can not go the court route and work things out in a room or on Zoom together, then that's better for everybody.
So why did you decide to be a mediator?
Oh, because I went through mediation myself, and I found it to be a really constructive process, a really good process. And I realized that this could be helpful for a lot of people in our community. And right now, I'm the only practicing mediator in Port Alberni, but I also have clients from all over the island because I do it on Zoom too.
What kind of training do you need to be a mediator?
Yes, so I did a program through an online college, and then you do like role plays. So that was really fun and interesting because it's kind of that drama side. And so that was a 240-hour certificate. And because I'm already a teacher, I had some of the prerequisites for that. And then since then, I've been taking lots of different courses on different aspects of mediation. And then it's just the practical training, so on site.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about mediation?
Oh, my favorite, so sometimes I also mediate between parents and teenagers. And that's been a really interesting part of my job. And I think my favorite part is when the teenagers kind of give me a little bit of feedback about how they've felt heard and that they finally feel like their parent understands what they're trying to say or what they're trying to, where they're coming from. And I've had really great feedback from parents, thanking me for helping them to understand their child and giving them different strategies and stuff.
So what's the most challenging part?
Well, mediation, because it's conflict, right? So people are in some kind of argument. It can be, there's lots of really hard emotions that go with that. And that takes a lot of energy. So as the mediator, you need to remain neutral. And so you're just facilitating the conversation. And so that can be tricky sometimes when people are really, really angry.
Is there anything else you would like to share?
No, I do better being answering the questions.
So thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks so much, Heather. This has been great.
So I saw your studio when you were interviewing my dad on The Wave. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a bit about Wave. What made you decide to host a TV show?
Well, I moved to Port Alberni in 2015, and it was so beautiful here. I was just so taken by the beauty and the community and the spirit of the people here. Then I began to hear bad things about Port Alberni. So I said, if the bad voices are loud, I should be louder with the good voices. So I decided to create The Wave. And The Wave means, for me, and I'm trying to spread the word, The Wave means the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. It's what we have, it's what we share, and it's what we want to share with the world.
So how long have you been hosting Wave?
We started 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Just before COVID hit, we were able to do 2 tapings of The Wave at the Italian Center back then.
What are some of the best stories your guests have shared with you?
Well, one of the best stories I remember was our first guest, which was Lana, and oh my goodness, I forgot her name. Lana and her partner, who designed the logo of The Wave actually, and they moved from, I think, Alberta to here, and they were like me. They were just blown away by the beauty, especially of the nature. And Lana is a transgendered woman who just fell in love with Port Alberni just like I did. And she had a very interesting story, how they met and how they came together, how they moved to Port Alberni, and how they live happily ever after in the wonderful Alberni Valley experience.
Do you have some guests that come back more than once?
No, haven't had some guests that have. Oh, I think I have. Your dad came on Zoom, then he came back on the actual studio interview. And then I think Mayor Sharon Minions has been on the Zoom interview, then she came back again for another interview.
How do you decide who to invite onto your show?
Well, anybody who has the potential to share a wonderful Alberni Valley experience, especially your dad, when he told me that he was assigned here and he fell in love with the community, and then they called him to ask him, do you want to stay in Port Alberni? And he said, oh, it was a definitely yes. I was just so blown away by your dad's, sharing his story about how you moved to Port Alberni, how you fell in love with it. And hope we get to keep your dad here for as long as we can.
So your studio is in your house, so I met your mom. She's an amazing cook.
Oh yeah, she almost burned down my house, but anyway, that's a different story. She is an amazing cook.
Does she live in Port Alberni?
Oh yeah, she moved here 2 years ago as well. 3 years ago.
Do you have any other family?
Well, no, not here in Port Alberni. I have family, and my sister and brother in Prince George, another brother in Coquitlam. I have a whole clan here in Canada, all in British Columbia though.
So where do they live and what do they do?
Well, they do different things. Like my sister is a painter, and she has 7 puppies. I don't know how she manages. She doesn't have children, so I guess that's the balance. She lives in Prince George. She's a painter. She's also acknowledged by her city as a local artist there. She has a painting in the airport of Prince George and a painting in the City Hall of Prince George. And she does real estate. My brother does the same thing. My brother, who lives in Coquitlam, is a promoter and organizer of volleyball tournaments. He also got acknowledged by the city of Coquitlam for his efforts. So now that the city of Port Alberni is acknowledging me, that puts us at par, the 3 of us. Only one brother has to make a citywide contribution yet.
So I met your dog. What's its name?
Oh, of course, his name's Sir Donovan. He came all the way from Prince George as well.
So why did you decide to name him that?
He was the eldest, just as I am the eldest of the four of us. So Donovan is the eldest of 6 puppies. And since I'm the eldest, I gave him my middle name. My middle name is Donovan. So to differentiate, he's Sir Donovan. I'm Mr. Donovan.
So along with Wave, you also have another show, Queerview Mirror?
We inspired another show because of the wave that was seen on YouTube and other channels. This person from Parksville reached out to me. He was a publisher, and he wanted to see if we could collaborate on a project, like writing a book or something. And I said, well, maybe instead of you writing a book, why don't you join me and host a show? And he came up with the name Queerview Mirror, which is now island-wide, and we're scheduled to participate in the Victoria Pride this month as well.
Are you from Port Alberni originally?
No, I'm from the Philippines. Then I moved here. We migrated to Canada in 2008, and we stayed in Coquitlam, where I discovered I'm not a minority. There's so many Asians there, so I'm not unique. So I came to Port Alberni, where I am unique. So I moved to Port Alberni, like I said, in 2015, and I haven't looked back since. I love it here.
So why did you decide to move here?
Well, my partner I met online. He lived here. He moved here in 2006 from Alberta. So we'd known each other for about 8 years. And the time came in 2015 that he was getting along in years and he needed a companion to stay with him full time. So I said yes. He bought a house. I said, okay, now that you have a house, I can live with you.
So is it true that you used to be a pastor?
Yeah, I used to be a pastor back in the Philippines. To 30,000 people in the Philippines, I was known as Pastor Don Tecson for about 25 years. And we had a show as well. That's what inspired me to start a television show, because I did have experience in doing a television show. From writing to directing to hosting and singing and performing and interviewing. Our show, ironically, I don't know if it's ironic, but our show back then was called Turn On to Jesus.
I really enjoyed watching The Wave when I saw you recorded in your studio. What advice would you give to me for my show?
Number one advice I give to anybody is be yourself, because everybody else is taken anyway. So just be yourself, be your authentic self. You're like a snowflake. No two snowflakes are the same, but they all have that sparkle. They all have that special touch and the special image. So that's the number one advice I would give to you, is be yourself. And number two advice I would give to anybody who would ask my advice is never stop learning. You're never too young or too old and to know it all, to learn everything. There's always something to learn, some new lesson, some new adventure, some new place to explore. And you're young, you've got a lot ahead of you, and I'm so happy for you.
Is there anything else you would like to share?
Well, I'd like to share that I'm happy that Port Alberni is coming up in the... I don't know if you're aware of the news that Google is running a cable from Canada to Japan, and it starts from Port Alberni. Like, that's a big mark. That puts us on the map, so to speak. And I'd like to share that Port Alberni, in spite of all, the problems that we have, which is common to any other city, our problems are not unique. But what is unique to us is the community spirit. Our community spirit is so strong here in Port Alberni. I read all the time about somebody's house got burned down and the whole community rallies and raises funds and puts some clothes together and baskets and all that stuff. And then I remember a very special story, when Ty Watson, in the Ty Watson house, their elevator broke down and the insurance didn't cover the repair of the elevator. So they had to raise funds to repair the elevator. In the meantime, when the elevator was not repaired, the attendants there or the workers there had to carry the people there, the patients there, on their backs to the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor. And that's how dedicated they were. And then everybody pitched in to raise, I think, about $75,000 to repair that elevator. And then a anonymous donor matched that contribution of $75,000. So the Hospice of Ty Watson, which is doing another great service, they're going to be in. Teresa Ludwigson, who's the executive director, was a guest on my show as well during the pandemic, so we had to do it by Zoom. But I am going to be having her in my studio one of these days.
So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Heather, and more power to you. And I hope, I thank you that somehow I would think I've been an inspiration to you in doing this. So more power to you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Heather. I work for a specialty chemical company. We're one of the largest in the world, and I'm a key account manager for them. I look after the accounts on Vancouver Island.
So what do you do at work?
Well, I work primarily in paper mills, and I help bring them chemical solutions to problems that they might have, or to help them develop new types of paper that need to meet specific requirements. Sometimes the paper needs to have some water resistance to it. Sometimes it needs to be a really particular shade of color. And so I help them figure out how to make that.
So what's the best part about your job?
I find my job really interesting because it's never the same from one day to the next. So some days I might be really busy in the lab doing test work all day, and other days I might be at my computer writing reports. Sometimes I have to give big presentations to a number of people, and yeah, every day is just a little different.
So what's the hardest part about your job?
Sometimes it can be really challenging, and my customers have problems that I'm not able to solve for them. And so I find that part really frustrating. And oftentimes I need to get help from a lot of my coworkers. And fortunately, we have a number of people that work for our company, and a lot of them are a lot smarter than me, and so I reach out to them for help.
Do you travel for work?
I travel a little bit, yep, mostly on Vancouver Island. Once in a while, I have to go into the States for meetings or training seminars.
So what's your favorite place you've been to for work?
Oh, probably my favorite was most recently when I got to go to Florida for work. Florida's nice and warm in April compared to Port Alberni.
So what education do you need to do your job?
Well, we hire people with all sorts of education. If you have a special interest in chemistry, we tend to hire a lot of people with chemistry degrees or engineering degrees.
That job sounds important. How does it help the environment?
Well, you know what? Paper's become more important lately, especially with the world wanting to get away from using plastics. Paper comes from a renewable resource, trees, which we have plenty of, and it can be biodegradable and recyclable. So we try to encourage people to use paper products over plastics.
So you also grew up in the Salvation Army. Your parents and children have also been involved with the Salvation Army?
They sure have, yep. I've been coming to the Salvation Army since I was first born. My mom and dad were Salvation Army officers, and my two younger brothers actually are Salvation Army officers now as well.
So what things have you done with the Army?
Well, I've done a number of things. When I was younger like you, I used to go to summer camp, and I even was fortunate enough one summer to get to go to Portland to go to a music camp down there. Since then, as an adult, I try to help volunteer, do some work once in a while. Sometimes we do services in the nursing homes in Port Alberni, and other times I try to help at Kettles with my kids.
So do you play an instrument?
I sure do. I grew up learning piano, and I played piano my whole life. And then in the Salvation Army, I learned how to play the cornet, which is similar to a trumpet. And now my mother is actually teaching my kids how to play the cornet.
So what other activities are you involved in?
Oh, we keep very busy. We really love to do a lot of fishing in our free time. In the winter time, I like to take the kids snowboarding. And then they're involved with a lot of sports as well.
Did you grow up here?
I did, actually. I was born and raised in Port Alberni, and I only left for about 4.5 years when I went to university. And then I lived in Nanaimo for just a few months when I first started my career in chemical sales.
So what's your favorite part about living here?
I think Port Alberni has the best of a lot of worlds because we live very close to the water and we have access to terrific fishing if you enjoy fishing. We're only 1.5 hours away from Tofino where you can go surfing and enjoy the beach. And then in the wintertime, you can go snowboarding up Mount Washington, which is also only 1.5 hours away. So I think we live in a really nice central location to do any activity that you might enjoy.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Until next time, Heather Ramsay.